So I was scrolling on Instagram trying to find some inspiration, and this video from Days Boogie caught my attention. I liked the concept a lot and I thought about recreating it in After Effects. And after some hours of intensive work, this is how it turned out. In the next minutes, I will show you a breakdown of how I did this, and if you want to download the project files, check the link in the description below. The breakdown will consist of 6 parts. Part 1, the text animation. Part 2, the text displacement. Part 3, the floor. Part 4, the wall. Part 5, the doors. Part 6, the final animation. Okay, let's start with the first composition, which is the text one. So first you can see here I have 3 text layers. The first one is enter, the next one is exit, and you'll see later why the letters are in reverse order, and then the last one is enter again. And for this I have used the impact font, and then I've recreated the entire text using shape layers. So for example, this group here consisting of 4 shape layers are forming the E letter, and let me disable the text layer and also these 3 layers. So I will show you how I animated a couple of letters, because the concept is the same for the rest of the animation and it doesn't really make sense to waste so much time to show you everything. So the first one, it's basically the vertical line from the E letter, and if I press U, you can see I have animated the position effect and it's going from the right to the left. That's pretty much all. Then for the next one, which is the top line, if I press U, I have 2 properties, the pad and the end one, and the end property is from the trim pads. So for the pad, I've just animated the pad to extend the line, so basically it's going from this length to a much greater length. And then with the end property, I've shortened the line, so now it's going from the right, it's retracting to the left, and it's forming the T letter. Next, let's enable the next one, and the next one is the bottom line, and it's basically the same as the previous shape. So I've animated the pad to extend the line, and then the end property to shorten the line from the right to the left. And this one is retracting again on the left. And then from the last one, let's enable it again. And for this one, it's basically the same. I've animated first the pad to extend it, and then the end property to shorten the line from the right to the left. So now from the E letter, I have the T letter. And I will show you the N letter as well. So let's enable this, and if I toggle this down, you can see that I have in this shape layer all the lines from the N letter, so it's N1, N2 and N3. And if I press U, you can see that I've animated the pad and the opacity. So for this one, I have the line that's going from the top to the bottom, and this time I've animated just the pad, and then opacity to 0 to hide the extra pixels in case the pad didn't go all the way down to the bottom. Then for the next one, again I've animated the pad, and then the opacity to 0, and then from the last one it's the same. Then I have another group for the I letter. Let's enable the first one, and this one is this horizontal line. So basically after the N letter is complete, I have this horizontal line that is going from the right to the left, and for this I have animated, just like the previous ones, the pad and the start property, which is from the trim pads effect. So it's going like this. And then the other I shape, it's this vertical line, which is going from the bottom to the top, and it's forming the I letter. So now it's something like this. I have E and N, and both of these letters are morphing into T and I. So this is basically all, and if I enable now everything, let me select everything here, and now you can see that I have every letter animated, and it's basically morphing from enter into exit, and then the other part here, it's morphing again from the exit to the enter, something like this. And then for the last layer, I've also applied the text displacement effect, so you can see the difference before and after. Let me unblock the layer as well, and you can see I have a turbulent displace effect with the evolution animated, and in this way I can have the text a bit rough on the edges. So this is pretty much all for this composition. Let's go into the next one. Part 2, the text displacement. Alright, so in this composition I have included the text composition, which I renamed it to Inside Master, and then I made the layer 3D. I also have a camera layer here. So the effect that we needed was the CC cylinder effect, and if I play the animation, you can see that the text is rotating in a circular shape, which is what we want. But we have a little problem here because you can see that the text starts here. Let me bring up this grid line to see it better. So the text starts here, but then at the end, it ends here in this part. And we actually want the animation to end up in the same place that it started. So for this, we have the rotation Y property that I animated it, and let me bring it up here. So rotation Y, and I have applied an expression which is value plus time multiplied by 5.11. Let me also enable it here. So now the text is also rotating a little bit, and you can see that now it ends up in the same place that it started. Then I also have applied a gradient ramp, and then a combination of Gaussian blur and sharpen to have the text not look so digital. So before and after, I don't know if you can see it because of YouTube compression, but this is what we have so far. Part 3, the floor. Next I have two new layers. One is the floor layer, and if I open this, you can see it's an image of a wooden floor. Let's close this back and also enable the layer, and you can see that I've made it 3D, and I rotated it and I scaled it to fit into the scene. And then here I have two curves effects, and then one effect for the color balance. So with this I have changed a little bit the colors. And the next layer, it's an adjustment layer, and I have applied a gradient ramp effect with black and white colors, and then I have set the mode to multiply. And in this way I have the background not visible and the foreground visible. Part 4, the wall. Alright, so we are in the wall composition, and the first layer is the texture layer. This one will be used later as a segment, so I will just hide it for now. Then I have the wall layer, and this is basically just a rectangular shape. Then I've duplicated this one, and I have the wall FX layer. And for this I have mask 1 and mask 2, which are basically just two masks to cut out the door. And then for this I've set the matte to the wall layer, and now you can't really see anything, but I have two effects applied here. The most important one, the compound blur, and then for this I've set the blur layer to the texture layer, and now you can basically see that glass effect. And I also have a tint applied just to lighten up a bit the wall. Then I've duplicated again this layer, and in this one we don't have any effects, but if I check here the layer styles, I have one drop shadow and one bevel and emboss effect. And with this we have some shadows and some contour on the wall. Now let's go back to the main composition. So back into the main composition, I have the wall composition. Let's enable it. And now if I play the animation, you can see that we basically have a problem, because this part of the text, it's not entirely in front of the wall. And that's because the CC cylinder effect, it's a 2D effect, it's not a 3D one. So in order to solve this, let's go into the text composition, and here we have the render property. And for this one, I've set it to inside. And now basically the text, it's rendering only on the inside. And then I've duplicated this one, renamed it to outside. And for this, on the render property, we have set to outside. And now if I enable this one as well, you can see that we solved the problem. Part 5, the doors. Alright, we are in the door composition, and here you can see that basically I have applied the same concept like in the wall composition, but instead of the wall shape, I now have the door shape. And what I have extra here, it's this deep glow effect. And if I enable it and disable it, you can see it here in the left part of the door. It's just a stroke line with a deep glow effect. And I also have applied the trim pads effect, just so I can move the glow effect alongside the door. Then if I go on the door right composition, this is basically the same as the simple door, but you can see that now the anchor point it's on the right, because I want the door to open from the right. And in the other one, the anchor point was in the left part, because I want the door to open from the left. So now let's go back into the main composition. Back into the main composition, we have both the door layers. Let's enable them. And if I press U to see all the properties I have animated, you can see that I have animated the rotation. And then for the trim pads, the start and the end and the offset properties, again, just because I want the glow to move alongside the door. And you can see here how the glow moves. And then you can see that I've animated the rotation to open the door when the text comes in, and then close it when the text is already outside. Something like this. And for the right door, it's basically the same. Let's now go into the final part. Part 6, the final animation. So because I didn't organize my project in the best way possible, you can see that the animation starts when this door is slightly open, and I would have liked it for it to start when both doors are closed. And because of this, in the pre-final composition, I have cut the composition one and I made it just like this, to start when both doors are closed and then to end in the same place. And I want this because I want to loop this animation. Then I have two new layers, FX1 and FX2, and this is basically just the sound effects for the opening and closing of the door. And it sounds something like this. Alright, now in the final composition, I have one new adjustment layer, the final adjustments, and here I have applied a noise HLS effect and the posterized time effect with the frame rate of 12 FPS, just to make the animation look more choppy and traditional. And then I also have this background music layer, and that's pretty much all. So this is the final result. Remember that you can download the project files by checking the link in the description below. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.